Okay, this program is going to show how to create a while loop that runs through the loop 10 times and displays the message on the screen so we can see run 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then finishes. Each one of these is being delayed by half a second or 500 milliseconds. Note, we sort of have started counting at 0 because that's generally how we count in programs. So I'm just going to close that window or terminate the process, and I'm going to talk through what code we have here, and then we'll make this from scratch. So this is all going inside the main method, so that's the first bit method that's going to be run. So I've created two variables. I've got a variable of type integer, the variable name counter, and I'm assigning the value 0 to it. So 0 is assigned to the integer variable called counter. So that's what we're going to start counting at, position 0. And the max value, so we have another variable called max value, which is going to store the maximum value for the loop of the type integer, and that's going to have 10 assigned to it. So that memory location will have the number 10 in it. Now, a new concept is this while loop. It works very similar to the if statements. We've got the keyword while, and then our condition. So inside these brackets, we put code which can be evaluated or worked out to be true or false. So while counter is less than max value, do all the code inside the curly brackets. So go from here all the way to here. As soon as this is false, skip out and jump to this section. And at the end, I've just got a console.readline to keep the information up on the screen. So what happens? First time it goes through the loop, counter is 0, max value is 10, writes this message, the loop has run, writes out 0, and then adds on the word times on the end. Then, don't have to worry too much about this code. This is the code that is going to get it to pause for 500 milliseconds. So system.threading.thread is basically the process that is running, so this application that's running. Tell it to sleep for 500 milliseconds. So if I change that to 1000, that's going to be 1 second. So if I run this, you can see it's working a little bit slower. And if I change that to 100, it's going to go through a lot quicker. So you can see it's still executing the loop a certain number of times, but it's changing how fast it works. If I go and change this to max value of 5, it only runs it 5 times. If I change the counter, the starting position, to 1, it's only going to run it 4 times. The reason for that being, at the end, it's run through 4 times. It adds 1 on to the counter, so the counter becomes 5. 5 is not less than what's stored in the max value there, 5, so it becomes false. Could change that to be less than or equal to, and it will run 5 times. So there are a number of different ways to actually get this to work out the final answer. What we have here, this last line, counter plus plus, basically adds 1 onto the counter. So if counter was originally 1, counter becomes 2, so it overwrites it, puts 2 here, 2 less than or equal to 5, and so on. You could also rewrite that like this. Counter is equal to, was assigned to counter plus 1. So if I run that, the program's going to run exactly the same. If I go and modify this to 50, the program's going to run through 50 times. So what we're now going to go through is basically creating this program from scratch. So what we're going to assume is you've got a blank project, and the first thing I'm going to add is just a console.readline at the end, just so that when I run the program, it's going to keep the program window visible. Now I want to first create some variables to store things. I'm going to create my counter and assign it to 0. I'm going to have some comments. And max value. And this is going to be the number of times to execute the loop. Note these have got squiggly lines under them. It's basically saying they're assigned but never used. So I've set them up, but we haven't actually used them yet. Now I'm going to have a while loop. So while my counter is less than my max value, do something. So whatever happens between these values here, these curly brackets, we're going to carry it out. So we're just going to put console.writeLine in this example. You can put whatever code you want. So we're just going to have the counter is and use a plus to append it. And that will write out the counter is and then whatever the counter is currently. So let's run that and have a look at what happens. I would actually recommend you not running this. So what we've got is the counter is always 0, and it seems to be stuck here. It's in what's called an infinite loop. I'm going to hit the stop button or press Shift F5 to cancel it. And that's because the counter 0 goes back. Counter 0 is less than 10 and it loops through that over and over. We need to increment the counter, which means add one onto it or change it. I'm going to go counter is assigned to counter plus 1. You could also write counter plus plus to add one onto it. As it works, we've got it running 10 times. Now, to get it to pause after each session, we're going to use the system.threading.thread.sleep. So on the computer, use the threading library, use the default thread, use the sleep method, and then we're going to put in however many milliseconds. Let's use 500 milliseconds here because we don't want to wait around too long. So I've got a loop that works through in order. Common problems you might get is getting these symbols around the wrong way. So if I do counter is greater than max value, run that, we get nothing because counter is 0, 0 is 0 greater than 10? No, so it jumps right to the end. What we could modify it is have the counter going the other way down. So we might start at 100 and go to 10. We start initially. Still going to get this is not going to work properly because the counter is being incremented, going up. So we're never actually going to hit that max value. So what I could modify it is change it so that the counter decrements. So counter -1, or we can use counter -minus to do that. So now if we look at it, it's going to work all its way down. And let's change that delay just to 5 milliseconds so it goes really quickly. You can see it pauses when it gets to the end. So it's gone around, changed it to 10, and then has jumped out at the end of the loop.